Welcome to the Walking Dead UK podcast. It's Entertainment Talks podcast for Fear the Walking Dead on AMC. I'm your host Matthew, and this is for season 6, episode 3, called Alaska. I did not really particularly enjoy this episode, and I'm surprised about the amount of praise that it's getting. Look, there's two positive things that happened in this episode. First of all, Dwight finding Sherry, very very good. Glad that the actress has been able to come back into the show, because she was in The Walking Dead, and then Dwight had to leave Walking Dead, and Sherry had to leave Walking Dead, and then they both met up here, and Dwight's been talking about her for 2 seasons or whatever, and there's just been this tease of like their reunion for at least a season, if not a little bit longer, for most of last season. That was really good, really positive. Glad she's in the show and they can actually have her in the show doing things as opposed to Dwight just sort of talking about her all the time. The action in this episode and I wouldn't really call it zombie set pieces. There's sort of like one really long zombie set piece throughout this whole thing, which is pretty much them working their way through this building. I found this episode to be particularly boring. I found this episode to have just a number of red shirts introduced just so that there would be an obstacle on the way to the roof. Now there's these other characters that are introduced, and then there's this illness thing that's going on, which is pretty much solved by the end of this episode because of what Althea finds, and then there's the rats and some other stuff in there, and that takes up quite a large portion of the episode, and I just found it to be I felt like you could have just sort of had, instead of there being this whole little community in there, just have the rats have like one or two characters instead of like a whole massive community, and then just sort of shorten that part of the story. Now it's interesting I've just said shorter because this is I think it's a 42 or 43 minute episode, and I think the last two were about 52 minutes, so it's a whole 10 minutes of footage. When you're talking about pacing and that sort of thing. This is also another bottle episode. We've had 2 bottle episodes for the start of Fear the Walking Dead. The season premiere with Morgan, and then this episode with Dwight and Althea, and then Sherry comes in at the end, and then you meet some other, at the moment, red shirt characters. We'll see what happens with them in the future. So I feel like already this show is struggling with structure, with pacing, and sort of just clicking everything together. I can sort of see where they want to go with this season, but like where's the guy's name? We're almost 4 episodes in. Next week's episode will be the 4th episode. We haven't seen June. We haven't seen John. We haven't seen Luciana. We've seen Daniel, and we haven't seen... No, it's the only characters that we haven't seen, because we've seen Alicia, we've seen Victor, we've seen Morgan, Althea we saw in this episode, June we haven't seen, Daniel was in last week's episode, Charlie was in last week's episode, Luciana, she must be with June and John or something. Yeah, so two main characters, June and John, the gunslinger, and then his I guess girlfriend or wife. Did they get married in the series? I can't remember. Haven't even seen them yet, and next week's episode will be the 4th episode. If that's not just bad structure and pacing, but just a really weird choice. You go with the Bottle Morgan episode in the opener, then you go with this one with Alicia, Victor, and a couple of other characters. Then you go with Althea, and then next week, I saw the thumbnail of the promo video for next week's episode, and it's got John in there. So it's like you're taking so many steps, so many different characters, and it's just taking a bit too long to get to the actual point that they want to get to. So overall I found this episode to be particularly boring. There just wasn't too much in it. There was a couple of interesting little conversations here and there, but for the most part it was just, okay, let's try and get up to the roof. Oh, another obstacle. Try and get up to the roof. Oh, another obstacle. And then it just kept happening over and over again, and I just got a little bit frustrated with it. One other thing that kind of didn't really bother me too much, but was just very unrealistic. So Althea and Dwight are looking for these driver's license cards, and every single person, every single walker they search, which I think is 4 of them, they've all got one. Really? All 4 of them? It got to the 4th one, and I kind of thought, okay, this is a bit unrealistic. They all have one. Every single one of them has got a driver's license on them. Now, some people in this day and age don't have driver's licenses on them, let alone 10 years into the apocalypse, where people have obviously probably lost things and lost their items and lost their personal belongings and things. Yeah, I don't know, that was just really weird. It was almost for the sake of like, okay, this is what these 2 characters are bonding over, so let's write it in so that every single time it's relevant for it to come up, it does. It was just it wasn't really a thing that bothered me necessarily. Like, I don't really care. It was just kind of unrealistic and didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think the 5th one that they come across maybe didn't have one, but like the first 4 didn't. It's like, okay, whatever. Didn't make a ton of sense. So,
hey there, I'm Aaron Holman, host of Eye to Eye, a weekly podcast talk show all about passion.
I have this passion and this fire within me that burns brighter than the fire around me.
Flow.
With performing, there's always a story to tell, whether it's my own or not.
And creativity.
I go, he's more than cute, he's creative.
All with an LGBT twist. Make sure to check out Eye to Eye, that's EYE, number 2, letter I. And rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in today.
I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are Killer Fun. We explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week.
For as long as people have been communicating, they have been talking about who did what to whom, and is that socially acceptable?
Because the boundaries of society,
crime,
and entertainment have always gone hand in hand.
The more salacious,
or weird,
the better. From books and movies
to television shows and games,
we look at how life and art imitate and inform one another.
And we can't get together and not laugh. So let's face it, there's going to be laughing.
Killer Fun is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, so join us.
If you'd like to get started with a domain name and a website today, just click on the link in the show notes and that will take you over to Koalu to get started. They also have a live support chat system that you can use, which is in the bottom right hand corner. So get started with a new website and domain name today with Koalu. Hey everybody, if you would like to get the ad-free versions of all of our podcasts and support Entertainment Talk along the way, all you need to do is head over to patreon.com/entertainment talk. Sign up either as a creator or as a Patreon. There's no difference there. That's just the option for either becoming a creator now or just staying as a patron for the moment. And then all you need to do is support us at the $1 level tier. That will get you access to all of the ad-free podcasts that we've done in the past, and get you access to all the ad-free podcasts in that month as well. So it's a great way to support us on Entertainment Talk and to get rid of the ads and get your ad-free podcasts. You can also become a patron at the $3 level tier. That gets you access to ad-free podcasts and allows you to redeem a review of a TV show or a film of entirely your choice. That's one per month for either a TV show or a film review, which is at the $3 level tier. As always, thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. But as I said, Sherry's back. Dwight is reunited with her. Probably the best scene of the episode, and it's also the end of the episode. It wasn't the best scene because it was the end of the episode. It was just a good place to sort of put that. Althea with this whole rooftop thing and calling away this other person, and the flare stuff was a little bit muddled, but it sort of got the job done. That's kind of the... If I was to put a subtitle next to this episode, you got the job done, but you sort of did it in the slowest, most boring way you could possibly have done so. Now, I've spoken a number of times on, throughout the years that we've been doing the Walking Dead UK podcast, both for Walking Dead World Beyond and for these few episodes of Fear the Walking Dead, and of course for the main show, which we've done several seasons of. I've always spoken a fair bit about zombie set pieces, and how I'm not just in these shows for the characters. I really do like the characters. I like Alicia and Victor and Morgan and all these other characters, Rick and Iris and Hope from the World Beyond show and all the others. So for most people, to me, it seems it's about following Daryl and Rick and Carl and Michonne and whatever from the main show, Carol, all the main sort of characters are not really being, and the zombies to those people, or the walkers or empties or whatever you want to call them, are kind of just the obstacles in the way. To me, I really am into the zombie genre of things. Like I said, this episode did alright with the zombie set pieces. There was nothing particularly special about the way they were fighting the zombies. They were just sort of there in the way, and they sort of cleared them. And to have a successful zombie set piece, you've got to do something interesting with the zombies, or a way that they're trapped, or a way that the heroes or the characters that we're following have to kill them, or maybe they use a particular type of weapon. And there was really nothing in there. They were just sort of on these stairs. There was the little piece, with the furniture and they're going to break out and we have to get through. That was probably their best attempt at it, but that was so short as well. So that is a thing I do judge these episodes on, and I do look forward to in these episodes, because I love different zombie ideas. I love different ideas in terms of how the zombies are going to get to you. Are they coming from a particular door? What weapon are you going to use? What's the character going to do? How are they going to get out of the situation? If a zombie gets on top of them, what are they going to do then? What are the other characters doing? There's a lot of different elements to that, and this episode just didn't do anything particularly special with that necessarily. So yeah, I think that's kind of all I've really got for this episode. There really isn't. I mean, so yeah, just to quickly recap: Dwight finds Sherry. Althea contacts this woman on the walkie, tells her to fly away. You meet these new group of people. We're not sure if they're temporary. You had the leader of the group. She kind of followed Dwight and Sherry outside. That doesn't mean they're going to stick around, but they're kind of there. Althea was sort of there as well. Characters drink some beer in this episode. Dwight doesn't like some of it, but he keeps drinking it because that's pretty much all they've got. Kind of makes sense. I reckon a lot of us would probably do that. Even if I was drinking Guinness in the apocalypse, I still probably would drink it. I hate it, but I would still probably drink it because it would be the only thing that would be there. So you got that happens. Althea's camera is back as well. Yeah, can't think of any. I mean, you had the cold open with Morgan. That's one other thing I kind of forgot to bring up. Structure is a very important thing for a television show. What you could have done, because the Morgan cold open's not really got much else to do with anything else. It's just sort of like, okay, the woman, the mother of the character that died in the first episode. Sorry, the wife of the character that died in the first episode. The husband that died. She has her child. Morgan has got this workbench thing going on. He sorts out this axe kind of thing, and that's pretty much the end. A way that you could have made that more effective. Okay, ignore that for this third episode. Move that to the cold open for the second episode, and I'll tell you what you could have done. Episode 1, you open the season. Fair enough, you give us a bottle episode. That's a different issue in of itself. Morgan goes through what he goes through. You see the change where he ditches his stick for the axe. That's a big kind of moment for his character. End of episode 2, you have Daniel meeting up with Morgan. So what you could have done, episode 1, bottle episode with Morgan. We see where he is. He's established again what's going on, what's happening. Okay, you did that. You end the episode in an interesting place. What you could do, open episode 2, use that cold open from this episode, so the one that you've got where Morgan is doing whatever he was doing at the workbench, and the mother and the baby and all that. You set that up. You could kind of almost leave that for a teaser for the end of the episode, because that would actually bookmark it as well, where you see Morgan he's preparing for his next step. He's off. He's gonna go off somewhere else. And do something, and then you see him. Okay, what's Morgan up to? What's he doing? Oh, he meets Daniel at the end of episode 2. There you go. Episode 3 really doesn't have much to do with Morgan at all anyway, so you could just not have that cold open in the episode. Again, it's little touches here and there that you could just make your structure a little bit better. Episode 1 sorts out Morgan. What's he doing? Where's he at? Cold open episode 2. Morgan sorting out his axe. He's going to go off somewhere. Where's he going to go? Mystery. Okay, then you catch up with Alicia and Victor. Daniel walks off. End of episode 2 from the guy at the camp. Meets Morgan. Oh, there's Morgan. That issue is resolved. Now we know where Morgan went off to. And that little segment. episode 3 focus on Dwight and Althea. And there you go. I mean, there's different issues with all these 3 episodes themselves particularly, but that's just one way you could sort of fix a simple little sort of thing. Now, this goes back to one of the comments that I think it's Ian Goldberg, the showrunner of this show, did say that this season would be more anthology sort of based and more character sort of based. I do not think that's worked out at all for this show so far. As I pointed out at the start of the podcast, sorry, June and John, 2 of the show's sort of main characters, haven't even appeared in the season yet, and we're 3 episodes in. That's quite a big deal. And yeah, I remember saying it in the, I think it was either the start or the end of the podcast for 601, the season premiere, and I read that statement out about, anthology and focus on different characters, and I said I was nervous for that idea for this season, and it has not worked out at all. And I mean, this is my opinion. If you think it's worked out great and you're enjoying this sort of singular story, almost bottle episode per character, although I don't think you can call episode 2 a bottle episode. It just sort of focuses on a particular area, not really on it's not really sort of like a really big bottle episode, but it's still not really a bottle episode. It's still focused very much on Victor and Alicia, which is the character focused part of the episode. But yeah, so far this idea has not worked out, and we still have 13 episodes left of the season, because 16 minus 3 13. And I can see it falling. If you're gonna do this for the entire rest of the season for 13 more episodes, I just because I can see where they're sort of going with this story a little bit, but I have no idea how you construct the rest of that together properly and with a good structure, of which I've already talked about with the Morgan stuff. How on earth you structure that together if you're gonna do 13 more separate episodes around different characters? Are you gonna just switch every week between different characters? Because that's not a good idea of how to run really any show necessarily. I mean, if you put characters in bigger groups and you show more characters per week, that works better. I understand that you can't show every character every week because you've got things like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead and Westworld, these big kind of ensemble casts. Westworld might be a bad example, but I think you see what I mean. These casts of like 20 plus sort of characters. I do not think that's going to work for the rest of the season, and that makes me particularly nervous. Now, they could tell interesting little stories between those different characters. I don't doubt that. I really liked I think episode 2 last week was probably the strongest one so far for the season. But yeah, I just don't know how you construct properly a good narrative if you're going to do that. I have no idea, so we'll see. But anyway, that's it from me. What did you think of this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead? What do you think? How do you think that this, if we do continue to stick to this for 13 more episodes for the rest of the season, how do you think that's going to plan out? What do you think of my idea of changing where the Morgan cold open is? Because even though I made it sound quite complicated with that, that's really all you need to do. You literally move Morgan's cold open from the 3rd episode to the start of the 2nd episode, and you're good to go. But what do you think of everything that I've said and everything that I've mentioned? Give me your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments. Maybe you also have concerns about this season of Fear the Walking Dead, or anything related to Entertainment Talk. Matthew at entertainmenttalk.org, Twitter eTalkUK, there's a contact page and information in your show notes. We will see how the season goes. It looks like next week we're catching up with June and John. We'll see what the hell they're up to, and if we get a cold open for a completely different character, I have no idea. I'm bracing myself. I'm getting more nervous for the season as we go on, but we'll see how things work out, and I'll be here next week to judge said episode, because that's what I'm here to do. But you can find everything else that we've got on entertainmenttalk.org if you want to check all that out. TV, video games, films, and Manchester United podcasts as well, so keep your eyes out for all that. And if you do like Walking Dead, which I'm assuming you do because you're watching a Walking Dead spin-off show, we do cover the main show, and we do also cover Walking Dead World Beyond, so look out for those podcasts as well. Thank you everybody very much for listening. Entertainmenttalk.org is where you can find everything. If you want to support the podcast and Entertainment Talk, if you like what you hear and you want to support more of it and see more of it for the future, there's some different options for you. We are on Patreon. You can have a look at the $1 and $3 level tier for instant ad-free podcast options and review options. Amazon affiliate link: if you're buying stuff on Amazon, we can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you extra. iTunes feeds, please rate, review, subscribe to those. If you search for Entertainment Talk on podcast platforms, you should be able to find us on there. If we're not on your podcast platform of choice, please let us know which one that is so we can look into getting the podcast on that as well. So please keep that in mind. Amazon affiliate link, if you but no, I already said that. Word of mouth, if you want to tell people that you know about the website, the iTunes feeds, all the different content, that would be great. Just simply tell people that you know. That would help us out as well. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, and if you can, put them in different Facebook groups. If you want your up-to-date, reliable TV and film news, David is on Geektown, of course, geektown.co.uk, and Geektown Radio on Tuesdays, Geektown on iTunes and podcast services, Geektown Radio Tuesdays, geektown.co.uk, for your up-to-date, reliable TV and film news. Bex is streaming daily at the moment over on Twitch. If you want some fun, interesting, different content, Bex is streaming daily at the moment on Twitch. Trista Bytes, that's Trista, Bytes. Go and search for her on there, subscribe and follow to her. That would be great as well. And look out for Let's Play Sunday episodes on Sundays. Thanks for listening, and I will see you for whatever the hell happens next week or next time. Goodbye.